I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:32 here.
Where are you?
What's that?
I don't see you.
Oh, yeah, my camera is not on at the moment.
I thought it was me. No, that's okay.
No, sorry. And I don't know why that picture with the snake on my head is the picture there. I didn't choose that. Just pulling from Gmail or something. Okay, so like I said, 7:32. First on the agenda, a motion to hold board meeting through Zoom, and that's under my name. So I am making that motion. That's of course because of the coronavirus still raging. Is there a second for that motion?
This is Braun. I'll second.
Great. And Julie, if you would roll call us.
Braun?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Morrell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So going into citizen comments, I don't know if we have anybody here at the moment. I don't see anything in the chat. Let me check participants. And Natalie, did you get anything in advance? Okay, so if anyone is here and wants to speak for citizen comment, now is the time. You can turn your camera on, you can pop into the chat, you can raise your hand, any of the above. Dr. Logan, welcome, and I saw you turned your camera on just now. Did you want to speak in citizen comment?
No. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Sorry, I'm a few minutes behind. Couldn't find the link in my emails, and no citizen comment on my behalf.
Okay, great. So you are first on the agenda, but I'll just give it another second to see if anyone is speaking in citizen comment. Yeah, I don't think anyone is even in the participant list that isn't kind of part of the meeting. So, all right, well, moving on then, our guest tonight is Dr. Logan. As we have all been discussing him and why he's here, I'm gonna turn the floor over to him unless, Natalie, did you envision something different or did you have a structure in mind for this?
No.
Okay. I don't know if your talks with JC and Dr. Logan, got specific on that at all, or if we want to just kind of let him speak for himself.
No, just the request to have him here tonight so that the board could meet him and ask him questions. He could tell us a little bit about himself. And that's it.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, my computer did something very weird. I thought it was like restarting. So I apologize. I thought I was disconnected. All right, Dr. Logan, if it's all right with you, I think we will let you speak in whatever manner you would like, and then we can kind of do some question and answer after that.
Sure. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces and a few new faces. But it's good to be with you all again. So yes, my name is Dr. Gilo Kwesi Logan. I am serve as the president of Logan Consulting Services. So we are a leadership and diversity consulting firm working with a number of nonprofits. We work in the corporate sector with educational institutions primarily and governmental agencies. I've been doing this work for 20 plus years in a variety of settings. I am, some of our clients have been, some of the local clients, I would say, have been the Evanston Police Department, the City of Evanston, a lot of small local nonprofit organizations like Connections for the Homeless, the Dance Center of Evanston, and others. And then there's large organizations like MacArthur Foundation, Rotary International, American Bar Association, National Geographic, and others. Part of what informs my practice is, particularly as it pertains to me serving communities and organizations in Evanston. I am a fifth generation Evanstonian, so born and raised here. And so that definitely informs what I do and how I do it. In addition to that, I'm currently a member of the Illinois Diversity Council, and I've been certified by the National Diversity Council. I've been very fortunate to have worked and lived in 23 different countries for about a 7-year period. So that informs, again, what I do and how I do it. My doctoral research was in racial and ethnic identity development, and I got my degree from National Louis University. So that's, a little bit about myself, what informs my practice. I come to this work personally as a person, as a man, as an American, and as an African American man, and as well as professionally. So this is my passion, this is my work, but this is also who I am. And I look forward to the opportunity to potentially work with you all to, I would say, to enhance the good work that you're already doing. And I feel that my background and my experience will lend itself well to, again, what it is that you all are trying to accomplish. So hopefully we can develop a good partnership towards helping you all meet your goals and your objectives. So that's a little bit about myself. I didn't know if there were any particular questions or anything else that you'd like me to speak on.
Dr. Logan, Brian Rosinski, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Brian?
Good. You remember me from the neighborhood?
I remember you and the whole family from the neighborhood.
That's right. That's right. So
Absolutely.
as I mentioned a couple of years ago, I used to play hoops in your alley, and your dad used to kick me out.
Yep.
How's Billy doing? And then I'll get to my question.
He's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
He's well, family's well. I moved back into the house on McDaniel to help take care of my dad, so I'm here now, actually.
Give him my best.
I surely will.
I want to apologize for the confusion with the contracts. Some of that was my fault, but we're trying to do some stuff with best practices, get it done correctly, protect the Ridgeville neighbors, Ridgeville patrons, our tax base. At any rate, so I just apologize for all that confusion. That was probably mostly my fault. So I'll just give you that answer.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Since you're from the neighborhood, I won't hold it against you.
Okay, there you go.
Ryan, did you say you also had a question, or was that just more of
No,
like a comment?
it's more of a statement, apologizing for the confusion with the contracts. There's
Thank you.
two-
And I actually want to jump in there too with, I guess, a comment statement to you, Dr. Logan, as well. I just want to apologize that I wasn't part of the process of getting the contract together in the way that Natalie and JC were. We as a committee do hold open meetings, and we are subject to the Open Meetings Act, which means that only a certain number of us can meet together without it being an official meeting with posted notice and all of that. So I assume that's why just Natalie and JC worked with you instead of me being part of that as well, or the whole committee, or any of that. And so, hindsight's always 20. I think hindsight is always 20/20. And I think in retrospect, we would have kind of gone through some of these pieces of the process a little differently and in better ways that wouldn't have led to time being wasted and things like that. So I just want to apologize for that. I, for one, I'm really looking forward to moving forward and working with you. I've always, felt great about you and the work that you do, and, the role that you could play and help us at Ridgeville. So I don't have any questions, and I just wanted to make sure I got that out there. And I'm sure we can work everything out in that regard. So yeah, that's it from me.
Great. Thank you, Martha. I appreciate that as well. So thank you.
Dr. Logan, I would love to hear from you about the scope of work that you would see working with Ridgeville on over the next year, what that would look like.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, essentially I see my job.
That's my computer. I don't know what the hell's going on. Sorry.
Okay. Just kind of like at a high level bird's eye view, I see my job initially coming in to listen and to learn. I pride myself in tailoring, I say myself, but ourselves in terms of the consultants that I work with, in terms of learning, because we tailor our services. Every organization, every community is different. So I see first and foremost is coming in to listen, it's coming in to read, to learn, to develop relationships, establish trust. From there, what my understanding is, I would be working with, you pronounce it REDI, the REDI, did I get the acronym correct? The Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee? Okay. To help, establish maybe some additional clarity, some focus in terms of the process, in terms of procedures, in terms of the purpose, in terms of, what the actual goals and objectives are of the committee. I see myself helping to provide some level of assessment in terms of what you all are doing, how you're doing it, and not so much only what can be done better, but where some of the opportunities lie. This is not just a deficit-based approach in terms of issues and problems. I mean, we all have that for sure, but I think a lot of times what's missed are the opportunities and resources that are in place that can be built upon to help enhance the work. So I see myself, again, as I understand more about you all and what you're doing and how you're trying to accomplish that, what the needs are. I see myself being myself as a content expert to help support the learning and the development of the committee, helping the committee to execute its goals and objectives and to really work together to make solid recommendations to you all as a board. Attending a number of meetings and engaging in a lot of dialogue to better understand what my role and my responsibility would be. So I see myself serving the committee, but also being a resource to the committee and indirectly the board and hence the community that you all serve. So at a very general level, I mean, that's essentially what I would say. I know you all were working before with Dr. Effiam, and so my understanding would be, I would want to get a better sense of what she has done, what's worked well, what can maybe be done differently, what resources are in place so that I can build upon the work that's been done. Because I by no measure do I see this as just problems and issues. I'm sure there's a lot of good work that's been done. I know from just my process in working with Natalie and Martha and JC, I mean, I feel the commitment, I feel the passion, and that's what I want to build upon so I can enhance the work that you all are already doing.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Good evening, Dr. Logan. This is Matt Rogers. I don't know where I am on your screen. Thank you for being here. And I just want to ask sort of, and I don't need specific details, just generally, as an Evanston resident and as a Black Evanston resident, what has been your perception of Ridgeville, and just where do you see some very high level opportunities, which I'm glad you've mentioned, as well as some of the challenges that we face?
Yeah. Well, as you posed the question, I just kind of went back to my childhood, and I mean, Ridgeville was kind of like this place way out there. It was very abstract. I again, just speaking personally, was very uninformed, very unaware. I think had a lot of misperceptions. I didn't understand how you all operate as your own entity. So I was, largely as an Evanstonian, as a Black Evanstonian, I was just oblivious, and as I grew up in Evanston and became older and learned more about the community, I see the community that you all serve, and there's a great diversity within the community that you all do serve. And I think that, again, at a high level, I feel that there's opportunities to forge stronger relationships with the community that you serve. I think there's opportunities to better understand what those needs and those challenges are, that from the community standpoint. I think with that, there's assessment that can happen to better be informed. I think there's a level of inclusion perhaps that may be able to be enhanced in terms of including the community voice, the community presence, the community as they express their needs and their interests. I think I would assume that there's opportunities to strengthen relationships along those lines. And so hence, as a Black Evanstonian, me being Black is actually irrelevant to that point of the question, because just as an Evanstonian, I was I felt distant and removed from who Ridgeville is or who I saw you all to be. And as a Black Evanstonian, I had some affiliation with Ridgeville, but I know from voices that I hear more than from my own perception that there's perceptions of this, this disconnect between Ridgefield and different communities that you all within the communities that you all serve, notably among some African Americans. I know there's some strong voices that express concerns and issues about what your intentions are. And again, that's not from a personal experience, but that's from just things that I've kind of heard in the community. So I would see, my being here as an opportunity to help kind of bridge some of those relationships. I think a big part of this would be, I don't want to say an educational campaign, but really informing the community so that they can get an accurate picture and understanding of who you all are, who you aren't, and and the value that you do provide to the community. I think just in any community, I think in Evanston as well, there's a lot of misperceptions, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of misunderstanding. So there's a gap between, such for example, like Ridgeville and the community that you all serve. So I think there's bridges that can be built, relationships that can be forged, and I think there's a lot of opportunities along those lines.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Who's next to Matt, who just spoke? Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Logan. I assume that you've read FYAM and Associates, the report that they put out and the assessment that was done through them. And I just wonder, do you plan on building on that or redoing all of that?
That's to be determined. I think it may be a combination of both. I don't think it's redoing that. I see it more as building upon that. I'm sure that there's some areas that may be able to be improved and enhanced, but I'm sure, from my understanding, there's great value there as well. So I don't see this as kind of undoing that or redoing it, as much as it is me better understanding it from you all's perspective, and to see where some of the areas are that can be improved upon. Maybe there's some areas that need to be changed, others that can be enhanced, some things that need to be done differently. But that's what I was referring to when I said part of my initial job is to come in and to listen and learn, to do more reading, have more conversations, to better understand, and not just from my own perspective, but as you all see it in your own voice, so that I can understand that, to then determine, again, what kind of work needs to be done utilizing the previous work that's in place.
I just have a question. Have you read the reports from FYAM and Associates, the assessment of Ridgeville that was done?
I did. Honestly, it's been a while, and it's not really fresh in my memory. But I think I know I read it shortly after it was published, or after it was made public, and since then I haven't revisited it since then.
Okay, thank you.
This is Martha again. Dr. Logan, I have a question for you that doesn't necessarily relate to, well, I guess it would. I want to know, it's sort of a general question though. It seems like equity work and anti-racist work, et cetera, it is such a booming field, and it's evolving and expanding so rapidly, which is awesome, of course. But sometimes when things grow too fast, it becomes confusing for people who are like new to the content and trying to get involved and learn, to sort of understand what's correct and where it all fits together, because it's literally still evolving and expanding. So I'm just kind of curious what you view to be either the most or some of the top most important things for entities like us to be focusing on, given that context of such a rapidly evolving, expanding, developing, et cetera, area of content and of focus for, of course, for individuals, but also for institutions, organizations, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if that's clear.
That is. No, and that's a great question. Just a couple of things come to mind right away in no particular order. I think for again, just kind of from my experience, I find that too often there's a knee-jerk reaction to the events of last summer. So hence there's this haphazard effort to try to undo what's been happening for the last number of decades, if not longer, to try to undo it in a matter of months or a year. And it's just so hence I think there's a process that gets overlooked or a process that's not understood. I see this as a process. And I think that's critically important. This is not about the product. This is about the process and the pathway towards those goals and those objectives. And I think, and I see that too often, many organizations are very short-sighted on the process that so hence the time that needs to go into this. I mean, to bring about organizational or institutional or even attitudinal change takes time, right? Another thing that I find is people within organizations, and I consider you ought to be an organization using that term loosely, but people use these terms of anti-racism and racial equity and social justice and this, that, and the other, and diversity and equity and inclusion is equality the same as equity, and should the goal be inclusion? And we're using this terminology, but do we have a common understanding of what these terms mean? So I think, and I just often use the example of the word love, right? I think we're all old enough here. We've been in relationships where we loved someone, or we thought we loved them, or we told them we loved them. They said they love us back, and we assume we mean the same thing because we're using the same word. And it's only a matter of time before we realize that we have different definitions of what love means. And I say that to say the same thing with like this racial equity work. Like, do we have a common understanding of not only the terminology we're using, but the definitions we're using to lend structure to those terms, right? And then what are the examples that illustrate that definition and those terms relative to, for example, Ridgeview. So I see that as another critical, important part of this in terms of having a common working basic understanding and definition of the work, of the terms, and of the definitions that we're utilizing. So there's that, there's the knee-jerk reaction that I'm finding is too often happening. And then lastly, I see, not lastly, but just the third thing that comes to mind is the lack of understanding of how difficult this work can be and how challenging this work can be. Part of my job is to help create a safe space in which we can engage in this work and to help people step outside of their comfort zone to be able to take a risk, take a chance to grow and to develop and to do the work that needs to be done. But too often people confuse safe with comfortable. And this is not comfortable work by any measure. So it's one thing to have a safe space, but that is not a synonym with being comfortable. This work requires people being uncomfortable, being challenged, stepping outside of their comfort zone. And I find too often individuals and hence organizations have a lack of understanding of the difficulty that comes with doing this work. And I think that's a really critically important thing to understand because it can be challenging and it is difficult. And with that, I would attach to it that like, you all, for example, you have some people who are paid staff, you have volunteers who are board members and on committees. But this is to really do this work at the core level involves, in my opinion, this is more than just a commitment from Ridgeview, more than a commitment from your board and your committee. This requires a commitment from you all as individuals. This is an opportunity for individual and personal growth and development and lifelong learning. And to really do this work on behalf of Ridgeview requires a personal investment in the process. And I find that too often that's not understood or it's overlooked.
With the Ridgeview, we're Ridgeville.
Did I say Ridgeview? I'm sorry, Ridgeville. Yes.
Albany has. So I think we're Ridgeville.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Logan, for that answer. That was really helpful. And I know that it's a journey and that it's you know, a process and all of that. And yet I need the reminder. Like hearing you say it again, even though I know those things, is really helpful, because especially when on behalf of an organization, we're feeling pressure, and I don't mean to use that word as though we're only motivated because of pressure. I mean that it's pressure we're putting on ourselves. Even it's, you know, and compulsion isn't the right word either, but you know, feeling compelled, feeling pressured, feeling motivated, feeling excited. There's all kinds of words you can use, but when you have all of that like energy, sometimes it translates, I think, into sort of a frantic or anxiety filled need to kind of like have that product or reach that point B from your point A. And you know, when the focus becomes too much on point B or on a product or on, look, we fixed the problem, you know, I think it gets away from the fact that this is a long trajectory of not only where we've been, but where we need to go. And you know, as a country, of course, and we are a small community, but the entire country is made up of small community after small community. So we're just, you know, trying to do our part. So thank you. I really appreciate everything you said and agree.
Sure, and I appreciate your question. And with to your point, Martha, I would say part of the work, from my understanding, in terms of where you all are at this point, is kind of going from being reactive to proactive. And that within itself is a process as well, to kind of get ahead of the ball game versus trying to catch up to what people feel you should be doing or what you should have done or where you think or where you hope you would be. It's a difference between being reactive and proactive. And being proactive, to get to the proactive state, takes, again, as a process to get there.
Do we have any other questions, comments, anything from anybody for Dr. Logan, or anything relating to everybody having reviewed, you know, what he put together with Natalie and JC, as well as what Charles put together for us, which would be the contract we would, you know, be moving forward with, hopefully. So just kind of wondering if anyone else wants to jump in.
Martha, I don't have anything substantive, more procedural though. I was hoping we could move up what's listed as agenda item 14 to vote on the equity consultant recommendation. If we could suspend the rule, my motion would be to suspend the rules and move up agenda item 14 to right now so that we can have a vote on the equity consultant contract.
Let me take a look at the agenda here.
I'll second.
Okay, great. And so you're talking about, Matt, moving up the recommendation on the equity consultant, or the portion that was supposed to be executive session?
When we come out of executive session, the actual vote. I'd like to vote on the equity consultant right now.
Okay, in other words, skipping executive session then.
Yes.
Okay. So we also have, though, still in the monthly reports, the recommendation on equity consultant. I don't know if maybe that's lingering, Natalie, from like previous agendas when we were meaning to achieve some of this ahead of time. Like, I don't know if, I don't want to jump over JC if she had more planned for that part of the agenda.
I spoke with her earlier. She does not. The only report that she had to give was her recommendation again for Dr. Logan.
Okay, yeah, no, and I'm fine to move to a vote as well. I just want to make sure we're being respectful for any other pieces that were planned. So are you good with that, JC? Okay. And Debbie, yeah?
Yeah, what's going on with the contract? I mean, are we voting now to hire or not hire Dr. Logan?
Well, the way that it works, and Brian and Charlie can correct me if I'm wrong here, we would vote to accept the recommendation from the Ready Committee, meaning we're formally moving forward with hiring Dr. Logan, but the contract just like we did with Dr. Effiam, isn't signed until after we take this step of taking a vote, simply saying that, yes, we approve moving forward with this person. And then the contract details are worked out subsequent to that. So, much work has already been done in the form of contracts. And we have sort of like a lot of content from Dr. Logan, which is great, because even if that isn't ultimately what we consider a contract, it's a great piece to be working with in moving forward in terms of what we do and why and some of that type of stuff. So that's still a very valuable document. And then from a legal perspective, we've got Charlie's contract. Yes, Charlie?
Unmute.
Okay. The purpose of the executive session is twofold. One is for comments to be made about Dr. Logan, and in fairness to him, and if there were other candidates in fairness to them, there's no reason for any discussion which could be negative to come out, and that should all be done behind closed doors. But there's no reason why you have to wait for that and conduct that to vote. You can do that. The other reason for the executive session would be to the extent the board requests legal advice with respect to a potential contract, we could discuss that at that time as well. But that's it. If the board decides to vote now, without a discussion amongst the board members, other than what they've heard, that's fine.
So we can vote now to hire Dr. Logan, but if there are contractual things, then we discuss that later?
Well, Dr. Logan could decide that he doesn't like what we're offering. And we could reach loggerheads on some point in the contract that neither of us would agree to, and we would go our separate ways. But right now, you're just saying that he's the guy you want to go with if you pass this vote.
Okay, I just have one more question for Dr. Logan, if you don't mind. How do you see outreach as part of your job, or do you not? Of what you would help us with, or help?
Yes, as I mentioned, I see from my understanding, that wasn't a core part of what I was being called in to do, but I understand that there's room for that kind of work. To the level and degree, I think is to be determined, because as I mentioned, I think there's opportunities to help forge relationships and build bridges between the community and Ridgeville as a whole, or just kind of like your various stakeholders. So to the level and the degree of that, I think is to be determined. That's where, again, I need to know more. I need to understand and learn more. But from my understanding from the previous conversations, that was not a major call that I was a major charge that I was being called in to respond to.
Okay, I understand that. Thank you.
Can I pose just a couple of very brief comments and a question or two? Okay. Yeah,
Of
so
course. I'm sorry, I was on mute. I was trying to reply. Of course you can. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, I think, Martha, this was to your question. I can't recall exactly, but if you all noticed, this is one of the reasons why I proposed an hourly rate in the contract, in the agreement, and I typically don't work on an hourly rate. We charge per service and the value of that service. The reason why I suggested an hourly rate is because from my experience, again, there's a lot more work that goes into this than what I think many people realize. And if I'm being charged on an hourly rate, there's a different level of accountability. You can see where your money is going in real time. You're not waiting until the end of a project. And you can see where the money is being spent and where the time is being allocated. So that's why I suggested an hourly rate, although typically I do not operate on an hourly rate. I got a sense that there is an incredible amount of work that you all desire to be done that far exceeds the $10,000 that I understand is available for this potential contract. So that's why I wanted to make sure that it was laid out incrementally in terms of the work that's being done and in terms of the time that would go into it. And you all can see that in real time. In addition to that, part of what cautions me, not with you all specifically, but just in general in doing this work, is kind of like just the idea of, the diversity checklist, or kind of like tokenism, if you will. You bring in the diversity consultant. Okay, look here, we've done that, and okay, we completed this, and that's not what I'm here for. And I don't want to. I would not want to play into that. I do not feel that's what you all are looking for or asking for. I'm just saying, from my practice, I'm cautious towards when I perceive that that's a possible vein under which I'm being called in to do the work. I do not get that sense here, but just that tokenism, or that kind of like that DEI checklist, that concerns me when I do get that sense. I did not get that sense here. So I do appreciate that. My question, just very briefly, is as a board, one is, what do you all see your role being in terms of this equity work that you want done at Ridgeville?
Sorry, Dr. Logan, can you say that again? Or are you just asking us as a board and whoever wants to chime in?
Yeah, just in general, as a board, as an entity, what role do you all see the board plays in doing this work, in this commitment?
Debbie, did you want to speak on that?
I was trying to figure out the microphone. I'm sorry. Well, for sure, one thing that I would like to see is that we all learn how to use the equity lens that we agree on, and to make sure that whatever we do, whether it's hiring people or creating a program or whatever, that we do it through the equity lens. I'm also concerned about outreach. I think that, we need to all get together and brainstorm outreach. I really agree with you. I really have issues with this. Oh, good, Ridgeville now has a Ready committee, so we're, and I don't want us to be seen like that, because it's not the the end all be all for everything, just because we happen to have a Ready committee or a consultant. I don't mean so. Yeah, I think all of us have to be involved in this and be listened to and listen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So I would like to say, to answer your question, Dr. Logan, that it's a great question. First of all, it's an important question, and answering it is very important as well. And I want to go backwards for a little bit just to start answering that, which is that, when we formed the Ready committee, we did so for what I understand to be reasons that are common with any committee formation. And that is to say that we wanted to dig deeper in a way that a focused group of individuals could do, that wasn't just the board taking on another issue and all 5 board members jumping in equally and at the same time and all of that. We also wanted to involve community members. So if we had done that work just as a board, it kind of feels not exclusionary, but sort of just by definition, internal work only. So we formed the committee. And one of the questions that has become apparent to me as a board member and a committee member is, okay, where is the line, so to speak, of what the committee members do versus what the rest of the board does? And when Dr. Effiam worked with us, she had held trainings for us as a board, for instance, because I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that we started working with Dr. Effiam before we formed the Ready committee. I think she helped us get the committee formed. So when we first started working with her, it was very internal work. It was very board focused. And that was great because, like you say, working on definitions and terminology and making sure that you have consensus in terms of like understanding basic concepts, basic words, and then moving on from there with that solid premise. that was some of the work that we did with her, and I think it was great for the board members to participate in trainings. But as equity work is ongoing and we kind of figure out from year to year what it is that we're doing, what it is that we want to see, it made sense. I think it still makes sense that we have this committee formed for the purpose of that. But like I said, the question remains, okay, where do the board members fit into that work when they're not the ones on the committee? Currently, we have one board member on the Ready Committee, and Dr. Effiam had originally suggested that we have no fewer than one and no more than two people from the board who are also on the committee. So, it's a great question. The answer is important. I don't currently have the answer. That's one of many things I look forward to working with you on, is spelling that out a little bit better, putting a finer point on exactly who does what and why and what that looks like. So.
Oh, great. Thank you. So then I won't ask the follow-up question, because that was, how do you all differentiate the role between the committee and the board, as far as your commitment to doing this work? But you just kind of spoke to that, so I don't see the need for asking that question. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And Debbie, I think it is to your previous point. Part of what I also again, I'm not projecting this upon you all, but part of what I look out for is, I don't want to be called in not only as the DEI checklist person, but as kind of like the token Black person to say, okay, look, now we got a Black guy from Evanston here. Let's get him to reach out to the Black community and create these relationships for us. And again, I'm not saying that's what you all are asking me to do, but that is not what I would be coming in to do as much as it is. I mean, I will leverage my identity, my experiences, my relationships, but it's more so me serving as a consultant so that we together can help forge those relationships and to establish that level of outreach. So hence the commitment and the responsibility is shared, as opposed to me coming in being the person to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things, I guess, with outreach, besides outreach of, in general of the communities, is that the Ready Committee right now is made up of all white people. And I just don't really, I don't have a clear sense of how a Ready Committee can, it's sort of like, we're doing what we think the Black community wants, but we're not having the Black community speak to us. And I wouldn't see you as the spokesperson of the Black community. I would see you as someone who's from the Black community helping us with. But I think, that the fact that the Ready Committee is all white people is an issue that we need to deal with quickly.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that, like, again, just to your previous question about outreach, again, potentially, that's where, focus groups can be facilitated. Affinity groups might be facilitated. And that's where there's opportunity to one-on-one interviews to help forge those relationships and better understand the community, or quote unquote, the Black community. Does that make sense?
So I just want to take us back for a minute. I don't mean to interrupt discussion, but Matt had made a motion, and I believe there was a second, to push up the vote. We double checked with JC. She's good with doing that. We heard from Charlie about why executive session would be used but doesn't have to be used. Does anybody have any additional questions for Dr. Logan before we, or any discussion on that motion, so that we can kind of stick to that and either move forward with that or not? Mick, did I see your hand, or was I hallucinating? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I just want to be clear with how I see things. Anyone who would like to move forward with voting on the Ready Committee's recommendation to hire Dr. Logan as our equity consultant for the rest of this fiscal year, can do so by voting on Matt's motion. And if instead you want to continue with the given structure of the agenda, you can.
So Martha, can I just interrupt? I think there's two parts. First is we're voting on whether we want to suspend the rules and move that vote up. we'll all vote on that. And then I will follow that up with a motion to follow the Ready Committee recommendation to hire Logan Consulting.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Charlie, is that correct? We have to initially vote to suspend the rules, take a roll call on that, and then he can move to his motion?
Yeah, Commissioner Mitchell is correct. That's what we're going to do. And then after that, presumably, we'll move to item 14, and somebody will make a motion, and somebody will second it, and we'll vote. But
Okay,
first,
great.
we
So
vote to
you're-
move it up.
So your current motion, Matt, is to suspend the rules in order to
Correct.
move something up the agenda.
Correct.
Okay, and the second was, Julie, did you get that? Whoever seconded?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, great. So
We need to vote on that, and then there'll be another motion.
Right,
Well, I'm assuming it passes.
right. So right now, we're voting on suspending the rules in order for Matt to make a motion to move something up the agenda. And Julie, if you want to roll call the vote, please.
Sure. Braun,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes.
So now item 14 is moved up the agenda, and somebody can make a motion to vote on the recommendation of an equity consultant.
Hi, this is Braun. I make a motion to vote on the recommendation of the equity consultant. Is
Does
that
she
right?
have to name Dr. Logan, or are we just going with the fact that he's already been,
Yeah, I think at this point, we should go with his name.
Okay,
and-
I'm
And we
sorry.
can just vote him in or out.
Okay, make a motion to vote on Dr. Logan as the equity consultant for Ridgefield. Is that all right?
That's good.
and is there a second?
Mitchell seconds.
Great. And any discussion on this particular motion before we go to a vote?
I would like to basically say that we're giving authority to the executive director and to our council to negotiate the terms of the contract. And I would like to see the number of $10,000 inserted into that as the amount of money that we have budgeted aside for this.
Okay, I don't know if that needs to be put into the wording of the motion. Charlie, do you have a stance on that?
So right now we have a motion. It's been seconded, and that's the question that will come up for vote. We can do a second motion later. That's within the board's discretion. If the board doesn't do that, it would be left to the director to contract with Dr. Logan.
Okay, so Brian maybe can help me on this. In the
Okay.
past, this is exactly how
Sorry.
we've done it, that the board approves a recommendation. I mean, we did this with Dr. Effiam, for instance. And then, as everybody I'm sure has noticed, the contracts themselves have a place for Brian to sign and a place for either Dr. Logan or a representation of Logan Consulting Services to sign. And that's how the contract gets executed. So the role of the board is to approve the recommendation of Brian to execute the contract. And so Matt Rogers, if you'd like to specify any details pertaining to that in as formal a manner as to make a motion about it, I think we could certainly do that. But if you would rather just sort of put it on the record and get it into the minutes and communicate that that's a part of it you'd like to see take place, that's another way to do it. But I think what Charlie has said is that it's separate, right? It's not a part of what we're about to vote on right now.
That's correct.
Okay. Mick, do you mind muting yourself?
Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, so any other discussion, questions before we move to a vote on approving Dr. Logan as our consultant? Approving, accepting the recommendation to move forward with Dr. Logan, I suppose, is what we're doing. Okay, I think it sounds like we're ready for Julie to roll call the vote. Please.
Braun? Debbie Braun, you're muted. Sorry. I still can't hear you for some reason.
Yeah, Debbie, yours takes like a delay. It always has a delay.
Maybe Dr. Logan can teach me how to use a computer.
We
Add
can
that
hear
to
you
the
now.
contract.
I hear you now, Debbie. Do you
Yeah.
want to hear yes again? Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
Morale,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes. Okay, great. That motion passed unanimously. And Dr. Logan, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for answering our questions. I think I speak for the board when I say we look forward to moving forward with actually working with you. And Brian, I'm sure we'll be in touch about the contract details.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you all for this opportunity. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your questions. The little bit that I've gotten to know you, I appreciate that as well. And lastly, as I mentioned, I do this work professionally, but I am an Evanstonian, and I take pride in being able to provide this service to my community. So I take this as an honor to be able to work with you all. So I thank you for that.
Dr. Logan, I will be in touch with you early next week.
Okay, sounds very good.
Thank you, Dr. Logan.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Alrighty. So moving on in the agenda.
Before we leave that, I would like to formally make a motion.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, that we, the contract include the $10,000, which is currently a blank in the contract in the negotiations between Mr. Rositsky and Dr.
If I could, the reason it is blank is because at the time I was doing the drafting, I didn't have the number in front of me. So my anticipation was that we would put that into the contract. You can make the motion, it's fine, but he cannot sign a contract for more than that amount because it's already been appropriated, and that's all there is. But I think it's I guess what I'm saying is I don't think we need a motion on it, but that amount was intended to be in the blank.
I will withdraw my motion and take counsel at his word that the $10,000 will be filled in as appropriate. I just don't like to approve contracts that have a blank in them for a dollar amount.
Understood, but Brian will be approving the contract and signing on behalf of the district.
It will be $10,000. Can't spend over, as the contract reads.
Okay, great.
I have a question. After the contract is done and signed, do we look at it again, or we can just assume it's the contract that we've been given?
Well, you're a member of the board and you have a right to review any of the books and records of the Park District. And I presume, just based on the fact that you've asked about it now, that Brian will be sending you a copy after it's executed so that you can see it. But if he doesn't, you certainly have the right to review it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I remember too that last time around, so probably 2 times in a row, with Dr. Effiam, I thought I signed the contract as well as president. So I could be wrong about that, and I see no need to have that included. So, I think we can just go ahead with Brian signing. Do you remember that too, Brian, that I signed as well, or no?
I believe so. You're welcome to sign it. Absolutely.
Okay, I mean, I only bring it up because if Debbie or anyone else feels that having a representative of the board be part, of the signing process as well, in order to have oversight of some of these details that have yet to be, literally entered into the contract, then I'm happy to take responsibility for being one of the signers and double checking all of that info.
Actually, I think it's inappropriate for the members of the board to sign. If that was done before it happened, nothing we can do about it. But really, Brian is the chief executive of the Park District and should be entering into contracts. He works for you, you tell him what to do, and he does it, and he signs the contracts. You actually do not have authority to enter into contracts on behalf of the Park District.
Okay, that would actually be a conflict of interest, probably technically, if I did. So that all makes sense. And I think it probably goes without saying then that Brian represents us as the board in a sense, and that none of us need to be part of that particular step of the process. So yeah, I think that's a pretty clear period on that sentence. Thank you, Charlie, for weighing in on that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so and Matt Rogers, you withdrew your motion, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, great. I think we're moving on then, if that's all right with everybody, to approval of the minutes from the October 14th meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
Rogers moves approval of the meeting minutes for October 14, 2021.
And is there a second?
Mitchell seconds.
Great. Any questions, comments? Anybody notice anything that needs to be changed? Okay, seeing that there are none, I think we can roll call the vote on that one.
Ron? Ron? One more time. Sorry. Not yet.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now. Yeah, for your yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Mitchell?
Yes.
Morrell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
And Gaines?
Yes. Thanks, Julie.
Mhm.
Moving on to the bills for the month of, dated November 11th, 2021. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the monthly bills.
You want me to describe them first?
Well, I think that would count as discussion. So I think we're probably supposed to have a motion first. I think Debbie was trying to make it.
I was so excited, I unmuted my voice. I wanted to make this motion. So this is Braun. I make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $53,468.57.
Thank you, Debbie. Is there a second?
Rogers seconds.
Great. And now we'll turn it over to you, Brian.
Okay, so I'll go over some of the unusual. Central rug and carpet is $4,137. We're going to have, per the budget, we're going to, per the ordinance, we're going to have the carpet changed up the stairwell on the second floor. We're going to have that written in 2 checks. One will be delivered tomorrow as 50% down, so they can order the material, and then the 50% balance will be paid when the carpet's installed. As we further go down, Evanston Lumber, wood for a coat rack that we're going to build for the conference room. Home Depot, a variety of things, but it's a small bill for us. There's some garden soil, oil filters, sponges, things of that nature. Further go down, Taft Roofing. In the budget, there's $13,000 to do a roof that was leaking at the maintenance garage. That has been completed. I will deliver that check tomorrow for $11,880. John Dalton is fall session of imaginary game classes. I believe they were Monday through Friday. A lot of kids participated. Lemoy Ace Hardware, trash bags, trash can, flashlights. We actually lost power one day. Nick and Ernie's, we had to repair the F-150 and the F-350. Both needed brakes and emissions work. Quill Corporation, paper products, batteries, and envelopes. Sunrise Tree, we lost a tree at Kaylee Tot Lot after ComEd had to remove several branches that were interfering with power lines. And that's it.
I would like to say thank you to staff for putting in what the various Home Depot expenses are, because that kind of helps in understanding what they are as opposed to just being invoices. So thank you for doing that per my request.
I will pass that along to Jung. She did a nice job.
Brian,
Hey,
I just have
Brian. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
the IPRF, looks like the workers' comp,
Oh, yeah, it's our workers'
that's
comp.
just an annual payment.
That's an annual payment, yes. And we
Okay.
often get a couple rebates off of that. You'll see one in the next month or two for $1,000, and you'll see another one in the next month or two for $1,214 that come back our way.
Great.
for doing-
Thank
for
you.
doing a nice job.
The what were the repairs to the roof? Was it plywood damage, or did it just need new shingles?
No, it's a flat roof. It was a granule roll-on product.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they had to repair around where some piping came up, some vents came
Yep.
up.
Yeah.
Had to repair around that and then roll on the new surface.
Okay. Great. Well, how long do those last? Those commercial flat roofs like that?
There's a 10-year warranty on products, 7-year warranty on the labor.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Brian, I had similar questions about the roof. I was just wondering if this was planned or if it was like leaking that just was sudden and that prompted the repairs.
No, it was planned through the budget process.
Okay.
It was slow leaks on heavy rains, and it was just dripping down on the concrete. It didn't damage anything. So yeah, it's in the ordinance in the line items under capital improvements. So it's done. It's one of the major things we got done in the fall that we don't have to worry about in the spring.
That's great. And did you do you have a sense of how old the roof was that was replaced?
How old the roof was?
Yeah.
It was the original roof, probably 93, 94. So
Oh, wow.
25, 26 years.
Okay. Well, that's great relative to what it sounds like we can expect to get out of a new one. You know, it's always nice when they last longer than you think they will instead of not as long.
Yes. And Taft Roofing did a nice job.
And my other question was about John Dalton. When did you say that the programming took place?
All fall, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Those are several classes for, I don't know how many weeks. Natalie could help us more with that, but he had imaginary game class Monday through Friday. Each day was a different group of kids.
It was
I
a
thought-
10-week session.
Yeah. Okay, so the normal session. I thought for some reason that I heard that was like a short-term thing, but that's the normal programming. Okay.
No, it was expanded this fall. So that's more than we've normally seen before.
Oh, okay.
He used to do it 2 days a week and we moved it to 5 days a week. And they all sold out.
Very cool. And
Yeah.
he does all of his stuff outdoors, right?
Everything's outside,
Yeah.
even in the wintertime.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Those kids have so much fun.
They do. It's such
I'm over
good
there
old
quite a bit,
fat.
obviously with my kids, and I watch them, and I watch. He doesn't know me, but I'm seeing him and how he interacts with the kids and everything. Those kids love it. That's such an awesome and really unique program.
It's an excellent program. He does a great
yeah.
job and he has
Yeah,
a
we're
wait
lucky
list a
to have
mile
him.
long for those classes.
I bet.
Yeah.
Well,
And we are
let
the
him-
only, and we're his host now. Ridgeville hosts
Cool.
all of his classes. Yeah,
Cool.
it's great.
Well, please let him know on behalf of the board that we appreciate how the work that he does and how great it is for those kids.
Yeah, if he could clone himself, that would be great. And then we could maybe get double the offerings going on. So just a suggestion, cloning. Any other questions for Brian? Alrighty. I think we can move to the roll call vote then on approving the bills.
Ron? Oh. Sorry, Debbie.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you. Mitchell,
Yes.
Morale,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Gaines.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Julie. So moving on to approval of petty cash expenditures, and let's go with a motion for this first. Anybody?
Rogers, I move approval of petty cash in the total of $1,395.20.
Morel seconds.
Great. And I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
Okay, so Amazon.com, we ordered mic stands for our concert series, garden tool set, and phone screens. Apple Incorporated is just simply memory for the iPad. You're gonna hear a lot of food coming up. Bill's Drive-In was burgers for the volunteer staff and the staff that worked the Fall Frenzy. Dengio's was a goodbye lunch to Ruben Sierra on October 29th. Fish Keg, 2 boxes of snack cookies for District 65's half day. I believe that was November 3rd. Home Depot, we have to get the new foreman a Home Depot card, but it's just locks and pliers we had to charge. Illinois Association of Park Districts conference fee. Jewel Osco COVID test, which we're going to use when anybody new starts and or somebody's not feeling well. MailChimp emails over 2,000. Meineke Garden Center was 100 pumpkins, corn stalks for decoration, and that was for Fall Frenzy. The pumpkins were painted by the kids as part of the event. Morelio Supermarket was bottles of water. I don't know if you guys been there. It's a great place up on Western Avenue. Pizza Hut, Fall Frenzy, more food for the staff and volunteers. Sam Clubs, candy, chips, and things of that nature for the Fall Frenzy.
Thanks, Brian. Anybody have questions? All righty. I think we can go to the vote on that one then, Julie.
Yes.
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 Rogers,
Yes.
Gaines.
Yes. All right, moving into monthly reports, and you're up, Brian.
Okay, here we go. As you guys all know, Ruben Sierra resigned from Ridgeville Park District and started his new job. His last day was Friday, October 29th. We have posted the maintenance foreman position and have received many applicants. Many of them are very good applicants. We will start interviewing as early as Monday of next week. I have assigned Marcos as the temporary foreman duties as we search for Ruben's replacement. We wish Ruben all the best in his new endeavors. By the way, Ruben will stay on payroll. He's off IMRF. He's off insurance. He might come back and help us on unique situations, like maybe the ice rink installation would be the next one coming up. In the very near future, and it's already done, Taft Roofing of Evanston will apply a new granule surface to our roof at our maintenance garage at Cayman East Park. It came in at $11,880. So that's a good number. In the past month, we've hosted 2 events at Ridgeville. The first one was the Fall Frenzy, which some of you were there on October 19th. It was well attended and lots of fun for the children. Natalie will give you a further update on the event on August. On October 30th, Ridgeville, in conjunction with Evanston Skates, hosted an event that was a competition of sorts for 3 different levels of skaters. Approximately 40 to 50 skaters participated. Many of the skaters had Halloween costumes on, which made the event even more festive. The event lasted about 2.5 hours and fun was had by all. The skaters then volunteered and did a park cleanup. They walked the park and picked up trash wherever they saw it. I'd like to thank Mike Hoff of the Evanston Skates, Karin Al-Hawami for ETHS students for their effort. Also thank Marcos Cruz, Natalie C., and Commissioner Mitchell for their services. I attach photos to this report. You'll see some fun stuff happening. We have investigated the request by Commissioner Rogers to use AAA roadside service if feasible. AAA does not cover organizations, only individuals. Therefore, it's a no-go. Jason Johnson, a senior park control specialist for iParks, toured our parks with me on October 20th to assess the play equipment. The tour went well. He had only 2 minor recommendations. One was a small part It's actually a rubber gasket on our tire swing at Lighter Park, and the other was to document biannual inspections of our play equipment, which we've already started. And gotta flip my page. Finally, I have also attached to my report the board of appointments and suggested interview statement requested by Commissioner Rogers. Our audit is still, and finally, our audit is still in process. We should have it done late November, and the audit presentation will be on our December agenda. That's it.
Thanks, Brian.
So I just have a quick little question, and this is something that I guess just some clarification. Thank you, Mr. Rosinski, for your appointments and suggested interviews. I still think there needs to be some clarification between consultants, employees, et cetera, as to, you know, who staff hires, who we hire, who we put contracts for, how we do, you know, not necessarily interviewing, but like posting of positions, things like that. So that's something I would like to see a little more clearly spelled out here. And I don't know if that's something that is an issue with the staff working with council, or if that's a staff only thing, but I would like to see just a little more clarification, because it's kind of been hit and miss as to you know, how we deal with consultants and how we hire them and things like that. So I would just like to see a little more clarification on that.
So are you suggesting I work with Charles on that?
If he thinks that he can bring something to the table on that, it would be very, very helpful for us, I think, to have a more clear-cut distinction on, you know, like consultants. Do we hire consultants? Does the staff hire consultants? I mean, obviously there are some clear-cut positions.
Right.
You know, the maintenance workers is a staff hire. But when we get into consultants and contractual agreements that we have with people, I think it's a little fuzzier.
Okay, we'll work on that.
All right, any other questions for Brian?
I'm sorry, what? Oh, question.
Yeah, I got a quick question just regarding the replacement of Ruben. You said you had a lot of applicants. Did Marcos or any of the current employees, did they apply for that job?
Marcos has applied, yes.
He has. Okay.
He'll be,
Great. That's all. What's that?
He'll be our first interview on Monday.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I was wondering.
Yep.
I have a question for you too, Brian. I know we discussed some of the differences perhaps in the job descriptions, but if the maintenance guys are kind of more or less doing sort of similar work, but one is more senior to the other, possibly historically, simply by virtue of being hired first, would that mean you view Marcos to be sort of having an advantage in terms of that position change, or would it really kind of rely on the kinds of applicants you're seeking for it?
Well, Marcos knows Ridgeville inside and out. I don't want to say he's got the inside track, because you got to keep it open. Got to keep an open mind through this process. But he knows Ridgeville inside and out. He'll be given every opportunity to gain potential position of the maintenance foreman.
Okay, and if you were to choose Marcos as the best person for filling Ruben's position, would it just default to opening up Marcos's position to possibly calling back some of the people that are applying for this one?
Yes, that's a great question, and the answer is yes. The pay difference is not that much, but you need somebody in charge. As you probably do know, we meet every morning at 7 a.m., myself and the maintenance staff, and set the schedule Most of it's predetermined anyways, but there's special events and things of that nature. So somebody's in charge to make sure that gets done, and also people are working. The guy in charge makes sure the people are working and doing their job accordingly. I have no question that Marcos could do the job. I think he's well qualified, knows Ridgeville in and out, but we have to go through the process.
Brian, I'm assuming, sorry, Martha, were you done?
No, go ahead, Vic, thank you.
Okay. Brian, I'm assuming that you wouldn't have to re-interview these folks if Marcos does get Ruben's position, right? You could basically just go off the interviews that you had and say, hey, this position was filled. Are you interested in this one instead?
I assume so. Charles, would you have an answer on that? Because I would love not to repost it and go through weeks of waiting.
It seems like it would save a lot of time and money.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on what the posting looks like. So I think I need to take a look at that, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
And that would be preferable.
Yeah, that's down the road. That's going to be in a week or two.
Can I ask a question about that? Because I'm scheduling these interviews. If we present it to them within the interview that there's also potentially a job opening for a maintenance position.
Yeah, so
And then we reach back out to them about interest in that. Is that enough?
You can certainly do that, but the question is, you posted for this, and would the other position be one that people may have thought that they didn't have the qualifications for this position, but they do have the qualifications for the second position?
Well, in the postings that I made,
like I said, it depends on what
the benefits are the same. They would receive the same benefits, and the pay per hour, there was a variable. So it was a between this and this amount of money per hour. So they would still be being hired for the same position, essentially just at the lower end of that rate, but with the same as additional benefits.
I think it's likely that we're okay, but I want to look at the posting before I give my final say so on that.
I'll send that to you tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I took a bite of my dinner. I thought I had more time. So sorry.
I can talk about that some more just to buy you some time and just go on and drone on about it. Maybe I'll mention some rules like the parole evidence rule or something.
No, I'm good, Charlie. Thank you.
Okay.
But and this is probably apparent. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but in a case like this, which we may not see again anytime soon, but perhaps it could have been posted with the possibility of the two positions, and then you get everybody at once. You kind of figure out who fits where, and it just sounds like it might have been easier on Brian and Natalie if we kind of foresaw the possibility that Marcos moves into Ruben's position. Okay, any other final stuff for Brian on his report? Doesn't sound like it. Let's move on to Jerry's report. Hi,
Hello,
Jerry.
everybody. Been sitting here in the dark all this time. Last week, Sikich provided us a draft of the annual financial report, which we've anxiously been awaiting. And with that is the auditor's communication to the board of park commissioners and management, a draft of it. We're currently identifying and resolving discrepancies between their figures and ours, which is typical at this step in the process. Actually, when I wrote this report, that's where we were. We have since advanced past it. We have identified all of our discrepancies and are in agreement now on the report. So we've moved into the phase of updating our management discussion and analysis letter. Brian and Natalie update some of the park information, and I update the financial side of it. We then package that up and turn it over to Sikich. They verify that it complies with GASB requirements because there's certain things that have to be said in this analysis. And if they're satisfied that we touched on everything we need to touch on, they bundle it with the annual financial report and publish it. And we'll be able to make the presentation at December's meeting. So we're, in terms of a timeline, very comfortably positioned to have this at the December board meeting, which is in time to make the statutory filing deadlines in December. So we're good. We'd hope to have that by this meeting, but we just couldn't pull it off fast enough. With the receipt of the, now that we're in agreement on the figures and everything, now we can also advance to creating the state required statement of receipts and disbursements that gets filed with Cook County and has to have a notice published in the paper. So we're making good progress on meeting all of our deadlines for the month of December. I'll also, just as a reminder, mention that December is a crucial month for getting the levy ordinance passed. We need everybody in attendance so that we have the quorum needed to take action and get that vital piece of business taken care of. Now that we've gotten an audit draft, there's enough information that I can use to open up a number of the financial accounts for this fiscal year. That allowed me to post the financial activity so far for the months of July through October and create appropriation ledgers and statements of receipts and disbursements for each month, and also come up with a list of the outstanding unresolved items in that financial activity. The one thing I cannot yet do or could not do is the writing of this report, and now is produce any balance sheet type reports because I didn't have enough. We didn't have enough agreement on all the numbers to have the assets and liabilities and deferred inflows and outflow type of figures. Now that we've reached agreement on the numbers, I can proceed to getting that done as well. But in your package, you should have gotten the appropriations ledger report for activity through the end of October, and you should have gotten a statement of receipts and disbursements for each month, July through October. Through the end of October, our spending is running at about 32% of the planned budget amount, as compared with our target for this time of year would be at 29%. So what that says is we're running a little ahead of budget, a little more than we intend. But that's actually not bad. Actually, seasonally, we usually are running over budget because our late summer, early fall months are months of heavy spending, and we're going now into a season of months of light spending. And so we usually find we'll be fine by the time we hit the spring months, because we'll have some heavy months, we'll have some light months, and it'll all balance out. So I'm not too concerned about those numbers. We're looking pretty good. You'll note I don't really comment at this point on the revenue half of our plan because we officially have no revenue plan until the levy ordinance is passed. So that kind of just highlights an aspect of governmental finances that makes us unique from private sector finances. We have a very distinct separation between focusing on expenditures and focusing on revenues, particularly with regard to the timing. Realize that we've been spending money for the last several months for which we will not have the funding for at least several more months to a year. That's the timing difference of government financing. So we're essentially kind of borrowing money from ourselves. We're borrowing money from cash flows. We're receiving tax monies now for prior years, and that's providing the liquidity that we need to operate these days. And there was a period of a couple of months where we didn't even have that tax money coming in. And so our reserves that we have, like in our working cash fund, is what provided that liquidity to us. Looking just, and it's kind of, you look at the statements of receipts and disbursements for each month, that gives you a sense of it, because you can see in July, the appropriations exceeded our revenue by $55,000. By the end of August, that had grown to a gap of $145,000. We were using the reserves to be in business. In September, we got some tax money that narrowed the gap to about $78,000. And by the end of October, we'd received enough tax revenue, which was really last year's tax revenue, but it provided the liquidity to give us a surplus of revenue over appropriations of 76,000. Plus, in that, we've been receiving some program revenue as it shows on the statement. From now through probably sometime in January, we'll see that surplus diminish again because we're not going to be getting any major tax or program revenue. And we'll probably again go into a deficit position until the next installment of tax payment starts to arrive. The key point is to highlight that that's why we focus so much on how are we doing relative to the appropriations plan, because the revenue side of the equation, whether it's a surprise to the good or a surprise to the bad, really has no bearing on the current spending plan. If we unexpectedly were to receive more money than expected, we couldn't just say, oh, let's spend it now. We'd have to wait until a future spending year to be able to incorporate that into our planning. That's a very different approach for government entities from the way a private business would operate. As I mentioned, nothing to discuss on assets and liabilities. In terms of cash and investments, our balance in the Chase relationship as of the end of October was roughly $340,000, which was down from the $365,000 we were at mid-month and mentioned last month. And it's up from where we stood at the end of September, which was only $184,000. So we've had a lot of fluctuation in the balance of the operating accounts, primarily because of the timing of the tax revenues. We're probably going to see those balances diminish from now until the next season of tax revenue coming in. That's it. On the outstanding items, the list of problematic items is longer than we'd like to see, but it's primarily because we haven't been able to see where the problems are for a few months while we've been awaiting the audit. Now that we've got that list, I can work with the office staff to start to research and resolve many of the outstanding items, and we'll probably have some motions to correct these items in some of the future meetings, because it's already apparent what the problem is on some of these items, and it's going to require approval on your part. And that's pretty much it and all I've got for you, unless you have any questions.
Thanks, Jerry.
Mhm.
I don't have any questions. Does anybody else?
I have one.
Yeah.
Jerry, can you speak to the relationship with Sikich? I think 2 years ago, they were way behind. And then last year, they did a much better job. Is that still improving? Do you expect it to get better? Or is this really the best we're going to get in timing?
This was a normal year. Everything's kind of proceeding the way it normally would. We sometimes get lucky and can get it for the November meeting, but usually December is when we're going to see the report. We got the draft kind of about the time we'd normally get the draft. If we'd just had another 2 or 3 days, we probably could have turned things around in time for the board meeting in November, which would have been rare. It happens. So we're kind of really comfortable. And the individual at Sikich that did the audit with us this year, an individual by the name of Laura Babula, has done our relationship in the past. It's probably been 10 years or so since she last did an audit of Ridgeville. She worked under Kate Moulton, so she was very familiar with us, and she's being supervised by Jim Savio, the same gentleman partner who last year presented at the board meeting. So we've developed a pretty comfortable working relationship with them.
Good.
All righty. Anybody else? Anything for Jerry? All right. Thank you so much, Jerry. All right. It's your turn, Natalie.
Hi. All right. Fall Frenzy. Fall Frenzy was held at Ridgeville Park on October 19th from 4 to 6. Thank you to everybody who joined us that day. We had folks come dressed up and pass out candy. We did arts and crafts. We had a pumpkin painting table. It was a lot of fun. We had a really great turnout. We had a live concert with Where's Maggie. It was a great event. So thank you, everybody who helped make that happen. Studio 908 and our garden programs. Classes continue to go well. We have about 5 more weeks into this fall session. We're taking off the week of Thanksgiving. The 2021 season of Garden to Table has now wrapped up, as well as the Youth Grow Team volunteer program. Winter session of classes will begin the week of January 9th, 2022. Half-day workshops going well. We had another sold out day on November 3rd. Thanks so much to instructor JC Herman for making these monthly events so wonderful and magical for the kids. The December workshop is also sold out, but there's a little bit of space left January through May. Winter break camp. Registration for our winter break camp is now open. We are doing an in-person winter camp this year. We're bringing it back, which is really exciting. Capacity is set at 20 kids per day for the indoor space at Ridgeville Park. Camp will be held December 27th through the 30th and January 3rd through the 7th in accordance with the D65 school calendar. Laura Downey will be leading our camp this winter, and we have 3 of our summer camp counselors coming back to assist. The 2022 spring summer brochure, I'm starting to work on it now with Sarin. I'm confirming classes for the winter and the spring, working out our mini camps with some partner organizations for the summertime, and talking to Brian about how we will hold our camps this upcoming summer. You can expect to see the brochure in homes at the beginning of February, most likely. And that's it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can you give us an update on Chicago Med?
I booked Chicago Med. Yeah. I'm an actor, for those of us that don't know.
You have to let us know when it shows.
Yeah. So episode 8 aired last night.
Oh.
And I'm in episode 10. I was a guest star. I got my own trailer. It was very exciting, very fancy. But I'm in episode 10. So I don't know what the schedule is, but in theory, it should probably be on the week of Thanksgiving, unless they're extending their winter hiatus, in which case I'll probably be on after the new year, but I'll be on TV. You can watch.
That's awesome, Natalie.
Yeah.
Any chance you get a recurring role?
They can bring me back. So because I was a guest star, I'm not allowed to book any of the Chicago One shows for 2 years unless they bring my character back. So maybe, but yeah, it's very exciting. I've done Shakespeare on the Ridge for years and years and years before I worked at Ridgeville. So it's exciting that I got to do a Chicago Med episode while I was working at Ridgeville as program director. I feel like it's full circle.
That's so cool, Natalie. I knew you were an actress, but I don't think I knew that you were auditioning for roles on film or TV. I kind of thought of you as a stage actor. So have you always been interested in that, or have you kind of transitioned towards that?
No, I've had an agent since I finished grad school, but then I ended up getting a job at Ridgeville Park District, and I've been a program director. So I haven't done a lot of theater since then, but I've had an agent the whole time. So I auditioned for film and TV. I filmed a Chicago documentary a couple weeks ago. And I'm using my vacation days. Don't worry, it's not taking me away. But yeah, I've always done the film and TV stuff, but yeah. And thank you so much. So cool to have a boss that thinks it's neat that I book a Chicago Med and I can take off a day.
So
randomly.
I just want to let the board know that I taught you everything I know about acting, which is nothing. So congratulations. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
When I get my daytime Emmy, my thank you goes to Brian Rosinski for his support.
Yeah.
I had a question about your report. It's
Yeah.
not exciting as the TV, but I know I understand that you have hired Tracy.
Yes.
And I would like to know what you've done with her so far, how many hours she's contracted to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we met with Tracy. So after the last board meeting, I invited her to come to the park to meet with Brian and JC, and we all sat down and talked about goals and what we wanted to do together. Specifically, you know, because we hired her to work with me kind of one-on-one to help guide me through some outreach things that I just don't have the skill set for, and I just maybe haven't known how to do, and she has that expertise. So she sat down with us, talked about goals. Charles put together a contract for her. She and I are working on that. She had a couple of questions about that. Charles, I will email you tomorrow about her questions, but it's pretty simple stuff. So, so we've agreed to meet weekly. The budget that we've set aside to work with Tracy is $5,000 for the year, as we discussed for this fiscal year. And as we discussed at the last board meeting, Brian and I sat down and looked at the budget as it stood and figured out some ways we could move some money around in order to bring her on board. And he went through that with you at the last meeting. So that's it. So we're meeting once a week. Right now, she and I are talking about, it's really my work. I have to talk to her about all things Ridgeville. So we've been talking about my job, programming, classes, special events, partnerships that we have. Next week, we're talking about marketing and outreach strategies that have existed up until this point. And then she and I are going to kind of dissect that and see where we find some gaps and some opportunities where we can kind of expand that outreach. But the agreement per the contract is that she and I will meet weekly to work on this together. And the goal at the end of the fiscal year is to do some block parties. That's something that we identified that we thought would be really fun.
Yeah. Do you have a job description for her?
I do. Yeah. I can email it to you.
I'd like to see it. And also I'd like you to include in your report your work with her and what's done each week.
Sure.
Okay.
That's no problem.
And just so the board knows, it's $2,500 to her at the end of February, and we can cancel the contract then if it really isn't working out. There's also some other, we may be able to pay less than $2,500 if she's not showing up or something of that nature. But
so you're seeing her weekly once a week, or?
I meet with her once a week. Okay. And I have to give her credit for this because of my schedule. She's been very accommodating in adjusting our meeting times, and that's been completely on me. And she's been fantastic, and she shows up, and it's been, I know it's been a short time, but it's been a great experience so far. And I'm really excited to be working with her.
So is it possible when you send me her job description to also send me her resume?
Sure.
I mean, why she qualified for this job?
Yeah. Okay. I think she interviewed for the consultancy positions, but I can attach that again and I can send it to you. Does everybody want that? I can send it to everybody.
I mean, sure, if you don't mind, that way. Sure. If anyone wants it in the future, they have it already. They don't have to ask you again.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for working with her too, Natalie. You know, I personally have felt since I got on the board the first time around, so I think we're talking about 2009 at that point in time, that, you know, I wanted to see Ridgeville as a park district just do more outreach, period, not in any critical way, but just like in order to better meet this you know, need for letting more people in the neighborhood know that we're here. I mean, I feel confident in saying that the people who know us love us, but I also feel confident in saying that a lot of people within our boundaries and, you know, around the boundaries don't know everything that we do, don't know, you know, everything that we offer. And, you know, you already do a great job with great program offerings and filling those things. So it's not like, oh, we need more people to fill the classes. It's more just, you know, I want people to know we're here, what we do, get involved, etc. And certain populations, you know, that we're disproportionately not reaching is a separate issue, but related. And so I'm really excited to be working with Tracy. And I'm glad Debbie asked all these questions because I also, you know, would love to be updated with all of the stuff that she's doing, and I'm glad she's with us. And I also just want to note that I don't think there's any reason we need to think she's going to not show up, or that we need to plan for not fulfilling, you know, the plan with her in terms of what work she does and what we pay her. I just feel a little uncomfortable with the insinuation that there's any reason to think she won't, you know, stay true to what's been talked about and what the plan is. I got a great sense of her when we talked to her as an equity consultant potential. And, you know, I just, as a fellow woman, I don't really appreciate that, you know, that kind of light would be cast on somebody for no reason. So I just wanted
Let me
to,
clarify my comments that you're speaking to, Martha. I don't know what the plan is for her, so I'd like to know.
sure.
I
Yeah,
have
that's
no
fine.
sense of showing up or not showing up. I just don't really understand what she's doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of conversation. I mean, even when I started, it was very clear. When I started working at Ridgeville, what, almost 6 years ago, like it was very clear that that was the biggest hurdle, was that a lot of people just don't know what Ridgeville Park District is, or that they live in it, or that they're a taxpayer, or that we have things to offer them. And even when Dr. Effiam did her assessment, that was, you know, we all remember, like that was the biggest takeaway from her assessment, was like, people just don't know that we exist. And so, you know, I've been working that's been my main priority in the time that I've been here. And that was Dr. Effiam's priority. And I feel like the most exciting thing about working with Tracy is that she's going to continue helping us kind of bridge that gap and just spread that word. And so I'm happy to report on the work that we do together. And I'm happy to report on that, but really it's work that I'll be doing. It's work that I'm doing. She's just helping me figure out how to do it, because there are things that I don't know, and you don't know till you know, right? And she's going to help me figure that out.
That's exactly what I want to know, Natalie.
Yeah.
How's she going to help you do that?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.
All right, Natalie, thank you for your report. Thank you for all that you do. Any other questions from anybody for Natalie? Okay, believe it or not, the agenda looks meaty still, but it's not. We're well, I'll just give a final chance to JC here. I don't know if you had anything you want to say, JC, or if you just want to say hi or what for the Ready Committee update.
I did want to say thank you so much for choosing to have Dr. Logan work with us. I mean, I've expressed this before. I really feel strongly that he is the person to help us through this. So I really appreciate that decision that you all made. I also just wanted to echo, I mean, I was already really impressed with Tracy when we had met with her in the interview. But then when we met a couple weeks ago to talk about what her actual, you know, contract and role and responsibility and everything would be, I was once again really impressed with her. I feel like she's also a great fit in the role that she's going to be in terms of helping Natalie with outreach. So I want to thank you for all of that. I'm excited about this work moving forward and having these people in place that are really going to help us do what it is that we're hoping to accomplish. And then I also wanted to share with you, this is actually new news to me too, so I'm really excited. In one of the Ready Committee meetings, Ida Nolan had taken it upon herself to get in touch with Young Black and Lit. And that organization has just donated a bunch of books featuring Black characters to the library at Ridgeville. That is super exciting. There's here, I can show you, Natalie sent me a picture. There's just a whole box full of them. So yeah, I know I was really excited because that was news to me too. So I wanted to share that with you all. I thought that was great. And hopefully Ida will see this. I will thank her when I see her myself, but I really appreciate the work that she did to get that done.
I tagged her in a post on Facebook.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome.
The books are fantastic. It's really, really great. It's really great selections. It's awesome for our library.
Great. I'm so happy about that. So yeah, I mean, unless anyone else has any questions, that's all I have for you for today.
Thank you, JC.
Thank you.
Yeah, Natalie.
I just wanted to say thank you to JC. JC also put a lot of time and energy and work into talking with Dr. Logan and putting that contract together, working out our goals and what we wanted to accomplish. And I just wanted to recognize that and say thank you for all the time that you've spent on working with Ridgeville.
You are very welcome. All right.
Yes,
Thanks,
I
everybody.
second that, JC.
Thank you. I mean, I tell Natalie all the time, I really appreciate the work that you all are doing, right? It's this little pocket of the world that we have an opportunity to make better for people. And I appreciate that that's what we're doing. Thank you.
Thanks. Alrighty, we don't have any old business. We don't have any new business. So that brings us all the way to call of the commissioners. And I'm just gonna let people kind of raise their hand if they'd like to chime in with something.
I'll jump in here real quick. I'd just like to say, I don't need to receive a physical packet. I don't use it. So it's a waste of paper and a waste of having somebody run over and bring it to me. So if staff no longer wants to send me a physical packet, I am perfectly content to not receive a physical packet.
We will not send you one.
Thank you. It just saves, I mean, I just have to figure out how to get rid of these papers then, because if they contain anything that's, you know, if we get stuff that is for executive session or things like that, I have to shred those and everything. So the only thing I ever use is the agenda, and I can print that out on my own.
Okay, you got it.
I hate to say I do need the paper, so no changes from me there. I don't have Matt Rogers. Do you use two screens? Like, are you looking at one screen for the Zoom and another screen for documents, or?
I have a 27-inch monitor.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I can have two things side by side, which if you watch me, I'm constantly doing this. And it's because my documents are over here to this side of me, but my monitor, my screen is in front of me, but my picture is in the middle. So.
Yeah, I would love to be able to have it all on one screen, but my laptop is quite small. And so I kind of do my back and forth with the actual paper. Okay, anyone else for call of the commissioners? Anything you want to share?
I would just also, I don't need the hard copy.
All right, Brian, did you catch that? Matt Mitchell doesn't need the packet either.
The mats are going paperless.
Yeah,
I-
exactly.
Because
I
I
got it.
can it out myself. So yeah, I don't need it either.
3 down, 2 to go.
All right, so from me, call of the commissioners, I just want to say how thankful I am to the rest of the board for digging in whatever ways you did to feel comfortable hiring Dr. Logan. And I'm just really excited to move forward with him and the equity work that he will help us with at Ridgeville. It's already November, you know, and because of the huge loss of Dr. Patricia Effiam, you know, we've been kind of without a captain in that regard for a while now. And I'm just really looking forward to getting back on the ground and doing that work with Dr. Logan. So thank you for taking it all seriously, valuing it, and helping us move forward. All right, anybody else want to chime in with anything for call of the commissioners? All righty, so that brings us to citizen comments, if there are any, and I don't know if anyone has joined us who wasn't here at the beginning. I'll give it just a second in case I'm wrong. Okay, so we're we're already at the end because we've moved all this stuff up. So I'll entertain actually, didn't we say we don't have to do a whole, is it a
So it's up to you if you want to discuss the contracts, and we can do that, or you can decide if you don't want to do that, that you can move to adjourn this meeting without having an executive session because the issue's moved.
Okay, I interpreted Matt Mitchell's motion to be skipping the executive session altogether, but I'm realizing that could have been a wrong interpretation. Matt, did you, not that we have to, you know, stick with your motion however you meant it, we could still go into executive session, but I thought
No.
the intention was we don't need to go into executive session.
That was my intention.
Okay.
I would move to adjourn without going to executive session.
Okay, and it's my understanding that we've already kind of left it that Brian is handling the contract part, so I'm good with that.
So we just need a second and you can vote.
A second.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Matt Rogers seconds. And didn't we talk about we don't need to roll call the vote to adjourn? I thought we talked about that last month.
I don't recall that, but I think the governor's order was that you need to roll call all votes.
Okay,
We-
maybe,
We've typically always done just voice votes for the final, for the adjournment, because there's no action involved in it other than adjourning.
Maybe I missed the very end of the meeting last week, but the governor said that you need to roll call each vote. So I think you have to roll call this.
okay, sure. Thanks, Charlie. No big deal. So Julie, we'll let you roll call once again.
What if I vote no?
Well, good question, but we'd still have four votes for adjourning, I believe. So
We're all captives.
you would just be a dissenting voice there. You can stay on the Zoom, Matt, if you'd like to, but
I'm going to. I'm just going to sit here on Zoom all night long. You can jump back anytime.
And you keep looking screen to screen.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but I have a bungee jump to do in a little while. So I'm going to vote yes. This is Braun to adjourn.
Thank you. Mitchell,
Yes.
Morale,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
and Gaines.
yes. All right, thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Hey, everybody,
Bye.
have a great
night.
Thanksgiving.
And
Thank you.
next month, the levy ordinance.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a good Thanksgiving.